Today has been a very complicated day for millions of Venezuelans around the world. For people like me, born and raised in Venezuela but living abroad, and for people who are still back home. Since the US military operation was carried out around 2 a.m. in Caracas and Nicolás, Maduro and Silvia Flores were detained, many of us have been asking the same question. Is this really the end of the Chavista regime? A regime that has ruled Venezuela for 27 years. A regime that destroyed everything we remember. A regime that transformed one of the most beautiful countries in the world into devastation. For the past few months, the US government argued that its military activity in the Caribbean, including strikes on vessels, was meant to combat narco-trafficking coming from Venezuela. They repeatedly stated that the Maduro government is illegitimate. But at the same time, they kept talking about oil and oil reserves, about how Venezuela supposedly owes some form of oil to the United States. This morning, Donald Trump spoke to the media and said that the US will run Venezuela temporarily, including seizing control of the country's oil infrastructure. He also said that the US has been in conversations with Delcy Rodriguez, the current vice president. On the other hand, Delcy appeared on Venezuelan television calling this an unprecedented military aggression and demanding the immediate release of Maduro and his wife. Then came one of the most disturbing statements. Trump claimed that Maria Corina Machado, the leader of the opposition and a recent Nobel Peace Prize winner, is not popular enough to take over the country. This is the same Maria Corina Machado who has been a beacon of hope for millions of Venezuelans, both inside and outside the country. And this is despite the fact that the opposition won the 2024 election by millions of votes. Maria Corina Machado was barred from running for president, so she supported a substitute candidate, Edmundo González. Edmundo González won with 6.2 million votes. Those results were verified and recognized by much of the international community. Yet, suddenly, Trump says she lacks support or respect inside Venezuela, and instead points to communicating with Delcy Rodriguez, a key figure within Chavismo. So, what is really happening here? If the US is negotiating with Delcy Rodriguez to manage a so-called transition, that suggests Washington still sees the Chavista state apparatus as functioning, even while claiming that Maduro has been removed. And once again, everything leads back to oil. Venezuela has the largest proven oil reserves in the world, over 300 billion barrels. That is roughly the equivalent of Saudi Arabia and the United States combined. However, the oil infrastructure has collapsed. In the late 1990s, Venezuela produced about 3.5 million barrels per day. By 2020, that production had fallen to 400,000 barrels per day. Yes, sanctions played a huge role, but this collapse was primarily caused by the Chavista's regime corruption and mismanagement. Now, to understand why Trump keeps talking about oil, we need to look back a little bit at history. Venezuela discovered a massive oil reserves in the 1920s. That discovery propelled the country to be one of Latin America's strongest economies. At one point, the Venezuelan bolivar was nearly as strong as the US dollar. By the 1930s, 98% of the oil production was controlled by foreign companies. And in 1943, Venezuela passed a new law requiring 50% of oil profits to go to the state. Then on January 1st, 1976, Venezuela officially nationalized its oil industry, creating PDVSA and reclaiming control of the resources. January 1st, 1976, January 3rd, 2026. In the 1990s, companies like Chevron and ConocoPhillips returned to Venezuela. Then in 1998, Hugo Chavez was elected president. He politicized PDVSA, fired experienced workers, and replaced them with loyalists. That system collapsed. In 2007, the Venezuelan government expropriated assets from companies like ExxonMobil and ConocoPhillips, leading to years of legal battles and compensation claims. This is the compensation Trump is now referencing. So no, the United States does not own Venezuelan oil. This is about reclaiming the control through force. Which brings us to the biggest question of all. Why did the narrative shift from narco-terrorism to supporting Maria Corina Machado to suddenly dismissing her and negotiating with the Chavista regime? We don't know what happened behind closed doors, but we do know that this is not unprecedented. For Venezuelans, yes, we dreamed of seeing this regime fall. But now we have to ask, at what cost?